Good afternoon and welcome to the Stratus Admissions Counseling Beat the GMAT webinar. Today we are talking about it being just 60 days until the first round 2 deadlines for MBA applications. What should you be doing week by week? And thanks for joining me. Before we get started, I'm just going to wait for a few stragglers, and while we're waiting, I'm going to do a couple polls just to get a better sense of who is with me. So the first question is, where are you located? Where are you sitting in the world? It's high noon here on the East Coast of the US, and that's where I am. So please put in your votes, and so I know where folks are. That'll help me to kind of tweak this, knowing whether or not I've got people predominantly US based or outside of the US in terms of what we've got for attendees. Give a couple more seconds here for people to put in their votes. They're taking a little snooze or getting a drink before we get started. So we've got about a third of the attendees are in the US, east of the Mississippi, and 2/3 or the rest are in Asia. So thanks for joining us in Asia. I'm guessing it's probably pretty late night there, so I appreciate your staying up to join. I'm going to close out this and get a couple more questions here as some more people are joining us. I'm hoping this is an obvious question, but maybe not. When do you intend to start an MBA? I'm guessing that most of you are with us because you are in the throes of developing applications to submit in round 2. But it does turn out that there are some of you who aren't applying for another year. So if you are not applying until next year, don't wait until 60 days are left to get started. Get started early. But appreciate those of you voting. We've got about, I'm going to give a couple more seconds here to get a few more of you to answer this question. When do you intend to start an MBA? Are you hoping to start in 2018, or are you thinking way ahead to start in 2019? We've got about 3/4 are intending to start in 2018, and the remaining quarter, 2019. All right. One more question before we kind of jump in here, and I'll do a couple more polls throughout, but how many years of work experience do you have? As you likely know, kind of the sweet spot for the very top US MBA programs is kind of 4 to 5 years of work experience, with the 80% range being 3 to 8 years of work experience. So if you are outside of that 80% range, either on the low side or the high side, you're really going to need to position why now is the right time for you to be applying for business school. So we have perhaps the most seasoned audience that I've ever had. We have about 10% have 3 to 4 years of work experience, about 20–25% have 5 to 6 years of work experience, and then the remaining kind of 60–65% have more than 6 years of work experience. So lots of seasoned professionals with us. Again, thank you for joining me. And let's, some have joined since I started, but let me go back one second. You are with Stratus Admissions Counseling, Beat the GMAT. And today we're talking about only 60 days until round 2 deadline, what you should be doing week by week. And as you see on the screen here, it's kind of a calendar. This is like a snapshot from my G calendar. Yellow are kind of US-based holidays, and what you see in kind of that deep red are deadlines that are related to kind of the top 20 US MBA programs. So you'll see that at the top of all your screens moving forward. But with that, let me introduce myself. My name is Susan Cera. I'm the Director of MBA Admissions Counseling at Stratus. I did my undergrad at Dartmouth College, where I studied economics and computer science. After that, I worked for several years in consulting before returning to school to get an MBA from Duke University's Fuqua School of Business. Coming out of business school, I made a career change and was working as a product manager in the software space and then in the e-commerce space. And just for some context and to date myself, this was in the early to mid 90s. And so working in e-commerce at that time was basically the equivalent of working in fintech today. It was really cutting edge. It was not something that people were doing coming out of business school. So I had to do a fair amount of my job search on my own. I worked in that space as a product manager, working in building a customer service organization for an internet-based company, directing consulting for an internet commerce company that was building customized solutions for partners who were just beginning to sell on the internet. I did that for about 10 years and then took a step back from my career to focus on my family. And at that point, I joined the admissions committee at Duke, and I spent about a decade reading applications for the Fuqua School of Business. And during that time, I was often struck by applications where I knew in my heart that the applicant was stronger than they were presenting, yet I could only assess them or evaluate them on what was presented in their application. And it's for that reason that I switched over to Stratus. And I now get great satisfaction out of helping clients to understand what the process is, understand what's expected of them, to do the introspection and self-reflection so that they can present their best selves through this process and really understand how to position themselves for each and every program that they're applying to. With that, a little bit about Stratus. We are a full-service admissions counseling firm. We've been around for over a decade. Every year we work with hundreds of MBA candidates, and every year have acceptances at all the top schools, great ratings on websites, lots of 5-star reviews. We have been featured experts. But a little bit more specific about Stratus, we use a team-based approach, which is unique in the industry. So rather than working with just one counselor, we put a whole team behind you. You are paired with a primary counselor who's your day-to-day contact on your team. But supporting that relationship, you have a senior strategist who will review your personal MBA strategy to highlight ways to strengthen it, make sure that the way you're positioning yourself makes sense for the schools you're applying to. Your senior strategist will also review your outlines to ensure that your themes are coming across, that the structure and content of your outlines is going to serve you well as you move forward with the writing. One thing that is really, I think, a big value add in our team approach is that when your essays are just about ready to be submitted, your counselor will send them to yet another person on our team who we refer to as your school-specific leader. So if you are working with a counselor who went to Wharton, for example, and you're applying to Harvard, Wharton, Booth, and Columbia, each set of essays will be sent to someone else on our team who knows nothing about you beyond reading your essays and reviewing your resume. And that individual will provide school-specific feedback to you based on the tone and the content around those essays. So it's a great way to ensure that nothing is missed and that you are really highlighting your connection with the particular schools that you are applying to. We also offer what we refer to as our 4-school guarantee. If you work with us on 4 or more schools in a comprehensive package and are denied at all of those schools, we will work with you again the following year. Or if you've applied in round 1 and have time to apply in round 2, we would work with you just in the following round for no incremental cost. So we really believe in making our clients successful, and we believe in our methodology, working through introspection and strategy, outlines, essay writing, helping with your resume, etc. So let me go into kind of the areas of evaluation before we go into the week by week. So you really understand what it is that you're being evaluated on. So the first area of evaluation, there are really 5 areas. The first is your academics and your quantitative readiness. So these are frequently the raw numbers that are going to drive rankings for schools. So, what's your GPA? Where did you go to undergrad? What did you study? What's your GMAT score or your GRE score? And actually, with that in mind, as I'm talking, I'm going to ask another poll question, again, to get a sense of who you are. Have you taken your GMAT or GRE yet? It's a piece of the application that many do not want to do. The reality is that applications are viewed holistically. So your GMAT score or your GRE score are only one piece of the whole puzzle for admissions. The next area, and I think the poll is still open, but hopefully you may or may not be seeing my screen right now. But the next area, and you can listen if you're not seeing my screen until I close the poll, but the next area of evaluation is your work experience. So beyond just how many years of work experience you have, schools are going to be looking at the impact that you've had. What sort of work have you done? Have you managed people? Have you managed projects? Have you managed budgets? Do you have any global exposure through your work? Have you worked across functions? What sorts of skills and knowledge have you developed through the work that you've done that are going to bring value to classroom discussions and make you an important contributor in class? So our poll, I think, is closed out here. We've got less than 10% of you are happy with your score and done. About 75% have already taken the test but plan to retake, and the remaining 15% have not taken it yet but are feeling confident. So thanks for those. As I go through what you need to do week by week, I know that over 90% of you have the testing on your list, so we'll make sure to cover that. Back to the areas of evaluation. The next is leadership and community involvement. At this point, if you've not done any community involvement, it is too late. There's nothing you can do in the next 60 days, so don't even worry about this. But the reason that schools are looking at your leadership and community involvement is that business school is intended to prepare the next generation of business leaders. And what better way to begin preparing than to just practice being a leader? Since the average MBA has only about 4 or 5 years work experience going into a program, it's very frequently the case that they haven't had a leadership role or a management role in the workplace. So community involvement is a great way to kind of start building those leadership skills outside of the workplace that you can then bring forward into an MBA program and beyond. And another reason that business schools look at leadership and community involvement is that it is, well, actually 2 other reasons. One is that it's kind of a proxy for your ability to juggle multiple things. There are plenty of applicants out there who, graduated first division with distinction from college and score a 750 on their GMAT, but they've never done anything other than focusing on school and then focusing on their job. You really need to be able to find that balance during business school, because in business school, you're going to need to go to class, you're going to need to be involved in outside activities, and you're going to be doing recruiting. So in terms of those outside activities, if you've never been involved in any activities up until this point in your life, it's quite unlikely that you're going to show up at business school and all of a sudden take a leadership role in the consulting club. You just haven't done it before. And it's really not believable that you would make a commitment to something that you haven't done in the previous 25 or so years of your life. So next area of evaluation is recommendations. It's an important piece because just about everything else in your application you are sharing about yourself, and a recommendation is an independent review of you. It gives the admissions committee the opportunity to kind of confirm what you've said about yourself if someone else is saying it. And finally, your essays. And this is really what you do control, and quite frankly, what you're going to need to be spending a lot of your time on in the next 2 months. Now, imagine, if you will, that you're going to get a report card in each of these 5 areas. And for each of these 5, you're going to get a grade of an A through an F. You obviously want to get more A's and B's than you have C's and D's. If you have an F in any of these areas, chances are that you would get a fast pass to the ding pile, meaning you are not moving any further in the admissions process. Now, once schools evaluate you, there's going to be an enormous number of qualified applicants for the seats in the class. So beyond evaluation, the admissions committee needs to select the class. So that's where they kind of are going to look at you as you compare to people who look a lot like you. So you don't want to have a class where everyone's the same. There is a ton of value in an MBA to the diversity of thought, perspective, gender, ethnicity. These are all great, valuable things in a business school class. Now, if you think about if these 5 areas of evaluation, if each of them were equally weighted, if you had an A in your academics and an A in your work experience, you're doing great. You might have a C or a D in your leadership. Every single one of you guys can get an A on your essays. If you have like a C on your work experience right now, there's not a lot you can change in the next 60 days, but you can, with the right research and effort, get an A on your essays. And that could be make or break in what makes you get selected over other people who evaluate at the same level as you. So with that, I'm going to ask, I think, one more question before we move forward, actually 2, because this will help me frame things. How many programs are you planning to apply to? We recommend our clients apply to generally 6 or 8 schools. They may not work with us on all of those schools, but everyone's got a different strategy. Everyone's got something different they're trying to accomplish right now this year. We have definitely worked with clients who say, this year I'm going to shoot really high. I really like my job and I'm happy to stay there for another year and I can continue to grow and I would apply again next year. And that's fine. There are other people who are like, due to things going on at my work, I really need to leave this year. So I better make sure I get into a school. And therefore the list of schools that those 2 different individuals would apply to look very different. So responses here, we have about 10% applying to just 1 school, about 20% applying to 2 or 3 schools, about half of you applying to 4 or 5 schools, and then the remaining 20-25%, 6 or more schools. So thank you. This presentation assumes that you're going to apply to 4 schools. And one more question, are you a reapplicant? Did you apply last year and come up short and you're going back through this again for the second time? Don't ideally want to, hopefully if you were unsuccessful last year, you've already applied in round 1. And that's kind of the way it looks as votes are coming in. Everyone is saying no, lots of no's, lots of no's. All right, so it seems that we don't have anyone who is a reapplicant. So I'll just not talk about reapplication through this. All right, with that, let's move forward. And we're going to go into this week-by-week guide. Hold on to your hat. I'm moving quickly. If you do have questions, feel free to put them in. If I'm not able to answer them at the end, I will probably reach out to you individually. But I probably will not stop during this. So get ready. You guys ready? Here we go, week-by-week guide. So here is kind of what I hope you have completed, or I assume you've already done. Identified your top schools. Categorize them by stretch, target, and likely. And the way I look at it, for anyone, regardless of who you are, all the top 10 schools are a stretch, even if you have a 770 GMAT. Make sure you've signed up for emails and updates from all the schools you're looking at. I hope you've researched school-specific resources. So if you're someone who is interested in pursuing a career in energy, hopefully you know what all the resources are. Are there energy courses at the schools that you're applying to? Is there an energy and the environment concentration? Do they run an energy conference? Do they do recruiting in energy? Hopefully you have a short list, probably 3, maybe 4 of potential recommenders who are going to support you. You're going to need 2 recommendations for most schools. Only 10% of you have taken the GMAT and are ready. The rest of you, hopefully you've scheduled it. Go ahead and hopefully you know where your transcripts are, or they are on order from your schools. If you are one of those folks who's in Asia, and if your transcript was not issued in English, get it translated by an official translator. Identified trusted advisors. Now, in this instance, your trusted advisor really needs to be someone other than your potential recommender. So your recommender should be your current immediate supervisor, perhaps your former manager, perhaps a client, perhaps a business partner. A trusted advisor is someone who's going to help you through this process. Who is it that whose opinion you value and you trust them to be honest with you and tell you what's working and what's not as you craft your application? It could be a work colleague, it could be a mentor, it could be your mom, it could be someone like Stratus. Go ahead and find your most current resume. It might be 4 or 5 years old. Perhaps you haven't worked on it since you got your most recent job, so it may need a little bit of rework. We do have quite a few people who are in Asia. Make sure you understand the TOEFL requirements. I actually was having a conversation yesterday with a client who's from India. If you are from India and you're applying to any of the UC schools, being UCLA Anderson, UC Berkeley Haas, you are required to take the TOEFL. Most other schools do not care that you take a TOEFL if you are from India, but make sure you understand so you don't get caught off guard and find yourself scrambling to take a TOEFL exam late in the game. All right, with that in mind, hopefully you've done these things. Final and perhaps most important thing here, get a flu shot. You've got 60 days here. If you get sick, you are going to be in trouble, because if you get sick and are laid out flat in your bed for 3 or 4 days, you're going to miss work for 3 or 4 days. You're going to have to catch up on work, and you're also going to be missing working on your application. Trust me on this. It happened to one of my clients 2 years ago. She got the flu at about this time and had already been working with me for several months, but she had intended to get all of her applications done before Christmas. And guess what? We were working them on New Year's. So with that, let's get going here. As I said earlier, at the top of each slide, you're going to see a calendar of things going on in MBA deadlines. Today, right now, in my inbox, maybe is blowing up with Stratus clients who are getting invited in the final MIT invite round. Exciting time for our clients. Take the GMAT. Hopefully, if you haven't taken it yet, maybe you're taking it this week. Make sure you get your scores submitted to your selected schools. Forget about the essay prompts for now. And we're now on Thursday. So this week has, 2/3 of it is already passed. So you need to do these things over the course of, today, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday. Think deeply about what motivates you. Like, what are your passions? What are some experiences or achievements that connect with your passion? So if your vision in your future is to run a tech company that develops solutions for dealing with traffic problems in a developing nation, why do you care about that? What skills have you developed? What experiences have you had in your past that direct you towards that passion and that interest? We generally spend about a month doing this, but given where we are in the cycle, you're going to need to do this over the next 4 days. For each of the schools that you're looking at, you need to understand what their themes are. This is really important because you need to connect yourself to the themes of the school. So for example, if you're looking at, I throw out UCLA again, their kind of buzzwords are share success, think fearlessly, and drive change. They're looking for people who value those things. Go ahead and find a posting for your dream post-MBA job. This isn't if I could do anything and I didn't really need to have the skills to do it kind of job. This is, what's a realistic job that you would love to do when you complete your MBA? It might be, a consultant for a boutique consulting firm that focuses on human capital. Maybe that's what you want to do. Maybe you want to work in a rotational program for a big pharma company. Make sure you can clarify and then articulate both your short-term goals and your long-term goals. Inevitably, every single school is going to want to know, why do you want an MBA? Why do you want it now? What's that first goal going to be when you finish our program? And then they also want to know kind of that career aspiration. So this is a lot of thinking for you to do in a very short period of time. Hopefully the fact that you are listening to me today means you've been thinking about these things already. Now you maybe just need to capture them. What you also want to do is craft your themes that you're going to highlight throughout the application process. So for example, You might be an analytical problem solver. Perhaps you are a cultural bridge between your team in Asia and the corporate headquarters that's based somewhere else in the world. Perhaps you're an empathetic leader. What is it about you that makes you unique and is going to make you a valued contributor in the MBA classroom? Go ahead and start updating your resume. You may need to change the layout. You can put your college information in. You can put your companies in with dates and locations, and just get started on that. It's kind of busy work. The basics are busy work. You're going to have to do some deeper thinking moving forward. And go ahead and create a list of activities and involvement both during college and post-college. Most business schools are going to look for this information on their application. And unlike undergrad in the US, there is no Common App. You're going to end up typing this stuff in 4, 5, 6 times into different applications. So capture all that information together so you can just cut and paste it later on. And go ahead and schedule time with your potential recommenders. You want to find out if they're going to support you. You're not going to be able to meet with them probably later today or tomorrow. Get on their calendars for next week, for a cup of coffee, a lunch, a drink after work, a bike ride, whatever it is that you do with these people who are going to support you in your MBA journey. All right, so moving forward, next week, it's time to get started on your applications and outlining. So first thing to do is start an online application for the schools that are on your short list. And as I said earlier, based on kind of the numbers that you guys gave me, this presentation is going to walk you through finishing 4 applications in the next 60 days. So go ahead and find the essay prompts. Pick your top school, and for now, we'll call it school number 1, and you're going to get started drafting outlines. I'm going to make up some schools here. Actually, some audience participation here. I want 4 people each to tell me their top school that they want to apply to. So then I'll use those names in here. Let me see if I can pop up my question so I can see it. I've got Stanford. All right, Stanford is going to be one of the schools. That's going to be the first one that we work on. Anyone else? Haas, Berkeley. All right, great choice. Who else have we got? Anyone? If you're only doing 4, I want someone to throw in one that's not in the top 10 because we want to get into school this year. We got Columbia, all right. And one last one. Who's with me here? Otherwise, I'm going to pick one. Anderson or NYU. Nice. Emory, that's a great one. So I'm going to go with NYU, but only because, not that I don't love UCLA, because I do. Thank you guys for your participation there. I love UCLA, but NYU has kind of a unique essay that you cannot really reuse from other applications. So with that in mind, our number 1 school is going to be Stanford. Our number 2 is going to be Haas. Our number 3 is actually going to be NYU. And then 4 will be Columbia. All right, so let's go. You're going to work on your outlines for Stanford. I actually love to get clients started with Stanford because what matters most and why is so instrumental in forming every other essay that you would possibly work on. So we're going to identify schools 2, 3, and 4. So Stanford's number 1, Haas number 2, NYU number 3, Columbia number 4. All right. Next week, I want you to ask your recommenders to support you. Clean up the college details on your resume. What do I mean by this? If you haven't worked on your resume since you started your current job, it's quite possible that you have a list of courses that you took in college. No one cares. They're going to have your transcript. They don't care that you took calculus 1, 2, 3, and 4. They don't care that you took advanced microeconomics or statistics for business. Take that off. So clean up that college detail. Go ahead and add your leadership and community involvement to your resume. And depending on how much you have, you might want to break it out as a different section. So you have a work experience section at the top, leadership and community involvement, and then your undergraduate or your education section. If you don't have a lot of leadership or community involvement, you might want to highlight those things within your undergrad and within your current work. It really depends. Everything depends here. No straight answer for anything. Go ahead and reach out to students who are in the clubs and activities that you might want to be involved in at the schools of your choice. So, if I've got this fictitious person applying to Stanford, Haas, Columbia, and NYU, I am thinking that, let's pretend this person is someone who wants to go into, trying to think of what theme works across all of these. I'm thinking you might want to go into the technology product management space, because all of the, being in the Bay Area or in New York City, a startup in the tech space will be our job. So you want to reach out to people in the tech club, maybe reach out to people, if you are from a different country, reach out to the affinity group from your country. And I always encourage clients to connect with someone in one of the kind of fun clubs, whether it be the tennis club or the wine club or, the improv club. If you have a passion for one of those things, what better way to get connected with students? All right, ask a trusted advisor to review your outlines for school number one. Again, this is not the person who's writing your recommendation. This is perhaps your college roommate who is a first year in business school. But honestly, if your college roommate is a first year in business school, they don't have time to be helping you. They've only been through it once. You want to find someone who really knows what they're doing. All right. Go ahead and draft an email with information for your recommenders. That's going to encompass, what are your goals? What schools are you applying to? What are the deadlines? You're going to work on that. It's an important piece of information to give them. You don't want to just kind of send them off and running. You want to arm them with the details that they need in order to support your application. And finally, thank 5 vets for their service. If you're here in the US or if you're in an area where there are US veterans, chances are there will be many veterans in your class in business school. Business schools love former military folks, great leadership skills, great discipline. So thank some vets for their service that allows you to go to school in the US. All right, recommendation week, the week of Sunday, the 12th of November. So you're going to go ahead, finalize your outlines for school number one, then get started on the draft of your outlines for school number 2, which is, I just turned my paper here. So you finalize your outlines for Stanford, and then you're going to start working on your Haas outlines. There's probably some rework you can do. Stanford has what matters most and why Stanford. That why Stanford essay is basically a goals essay. What do you want to accomplish? How is Stanford going to help you get there? Haas has some new questions this year. They took away that what's your favorite song? They have that 6 words that summarize who you are. An entirely different beast. So there's not a lot that you can reuse from Stanford and plug it into Haas. That first Stanford essay should be about 750 words. The ideas in that probably can be reused for your Haas 6-word story, but your 6-word story has way fewer words in it than 750. So start from scratch on those outlines. Do not try to repurpose the content. Go ahead and send that recommender to your email. That includes, I don't have it here, but the deadlines, what schools you're applying to, when are your applications due, what are your goals, what are your themes that you're presenting, and also some of the themes about the schools so they understand what matters to these schools. So for Stanford, you want to let them know that Stanford wants people who are going to be leaders, who will change lives, change organizations, change the world. You want them to know that at Haas, the things that are important are questioning the status quo, confidence without attitude, beyond yourself, and student always. And how do you demonstrate those things, or how have you in your past? Columbia wants to know why you want to be at Columbia and why New York City is the right place for you to be. They have lots of great resources that are available and accessible only if you're at Columbia. Even NYU, our 4th school, doesn't have some of those immersion seminars and master's classes that are available at CBS. So make sure you're doing your research. Make sure to, after you've already started your online applications, you're going to go ahead, after your recommenders have said yes, add their emails to the online application. That's going to trigger the school to send instructions to them for each of the different schools. Go ahead and enter your personal and college information into your online applications. There's a lot of busy work here to be done. You don't want to be waiting until the 11th hour to do this. So go ahead and get that done now. And also, while you're in those applications, go ahead and find any short answer questions that might exist. Stanford has a few around, I want to say, what extracurricular activity is most important to you and why. It's not one of their big application questions, but there's some subtle things in there. We don't have Tuck on our list, but Tuck has like a hidden 300-word essay about your global experiences. And if you found yourself stumbling upon that at 11:30 at night when the application is due at midnight, you'd be throwing something together, and trust me, it would not look good. So make sure you know all the little pieces that are hidden in those applications. Go ahead and work on crafting some compelling bullet points for your resume, specifically around your accomplishments at work. You want to be able to quantify the impact that you've had and highlight that in your resume, as well as the impact that you may have had in any of your outside activities. Go ahead and get started this week on a first draft of your essays for Stanford and request a review. Send it back to that trusted advisor, have them take a look at it. Have you touched on all the themes? Are you connecting with Stanford? Does it show that you've already done some changing of lives and changing of organizations, and you just need Stanford so you can change the world? And go ahead and get started on drafts of your NYU outlines. NYU has a super fun essay, which is pick six pictures, 1 sentence each, with I think a 2-sentence introduction to what these pictures are. They can be pictures of you, they could be images, whatever. It's very Instagram, and kind of have fun with it. This is really an opportunity to show who you are beyond what's on your resume. So embrace that and have fun. All right, retake the GMAT. Hopefully not, but this, when I've got 90% of you who aren't set on your GMAT, I'm going to keep reminding you that you need to get that done. All right, moving into this third full week in November, which is Thanksgiving week. If you're in the US, you possibly have a 4-day weekend, maybe 4.5 days, maybe some downtime, but perhaps you're traveling. Things to do: buy your fresh turkey and fixings and start cooking, or get your family to be cooking for you, because all you're going to do this week is your applications. Go ahead and revise your essays for Stanford, finalize your outlines for Berkeley Haas, get started on drafting your outlines for Columbia. You may be able to reuse some of your content from some others. Columbia, I haven't done a Columbia essay in a while because all my clients applied early decision, but there's essentially a goals essay that will look remarkably similar to your Stanford essay. There is, how are you going to balance recruiting, networking, and your academics? And that, tell us specifically what you're going to do with your time while you're at Columbia. And then finally, the fun one of, there are a couple different options of, if you had a day and you could do anything, what would it be and why? That might be some of the same stuff that you share in that NYU Pick Six. All right, go ahead and complete the work experience section in your application. Hopefully you have those bullets that summarize your job, and you can incorporate those into your applications online. Again, just knocking out some of this busy work as you go. Sometimes your brain's just going to need a little bit of downtime to do monotonous stuff, because thinking about all these essays is very draining. And go ahead and enter your extracurricular activities in your application. If you were listening kind of 3 weeks ago, I said to put all that together because you're going to have to enter it on all your applications. So go ahead and get that done. Finalize your outlines for NYU. Ask your trusted advisor to review your resume. Be thankful for your family and friends. These are the people who are going to be supporting you over the next 60 days and through your MBA journey as well. Go ahead and get your holiday shopping list going. It's one thing to be working on your MBA applications. It's another to totally forget your loved ones at the holidays. So make sure you don't do that. Maybe take a break, go for a movie, even if maybe you don't even know what movies are out. But it's really important throughout this entire process that you find time to take a break from this. I'm assuming that all of you have jobs that you're going to for probably 40, 50, 60 hours a week, and you're doing your applications on top of that. It's a lot going on. If you've gotten your flu shot, hopefully you're not going to get sick, but for your mental health, you need to take breaks. You need to go for a run, do yoga, hang out with your friends, binge on Netflix for a little bit, but really control yourself, because if you're watching Lost in the early seasons, you might just lose an entire day watching that. But do make sure you take that time for yourself, because otherwise you're just going to get grumpy and it's just not even going to be any fun. You're going to question why you're even applying to business school because you're so miserable through the process. This should be a really introspective and self-reflective process, and it should be super exciting. You are taking the next step on kind of your major career journey. You need to be, you need to have your heart in it, and you need to have your head in it. So enough said on that. I sound like your mom. All right. End of November, going into the first week in December, really nothing going on in the MBA calendar up there at the top. Do you need to retake your GMAT? Go ahead and retake that. Ask for an independent review of your Stanford essays. Go ahead and draft your essays for your Haas essays. Actually, let me take a step back. This independent review of your School 1 essays, this is not your trusted advisor. I want you to find someone who has not looked at your essays before. Right? This is a totally different person. So if your college roommate's been reviewing your essays, find a different person to do that independent review. So, and maybe even give them the essays without the prompts and ask them what they think the prompt was. But this is someone who is viewing it for the first time, kind of as if they were admissions committee. Touch base with your recommenders, make sure they have everything that they need to be doing their part of the job for you. If you studied abroad and it wasn't with the university that you graduated from, make sure you track down that transcript. Wharton specifically wants that transcript. So you don't want to be caught between Christmas and New Year's wondering where that transcript is and how the heck you might be able to get it in time for the deadline. Go ahead and draft your essays for NYU and request that someone review those. Finalize your outlines for Columbia. Check on your resume, just check your fonts and formatting. Make sure you get that down to 1 page. Make sure you haven't copied and pasted and had, some stuff's in 10-point font and others is in 11-point font and some is in Arial and some is in Times New Roman because you grabbed it from a different document. You want it looking clean and polished. Go ahead and upload your transcripts and other materials to those online applications. And, think about that holiday shopping. That might be something you do while you're taking a break is, flipping through a catalog, going on Amazon, finding gift ideas, maybe even get some of that shopping done. All right, first full week in December. That means applications are due next month. Don't get distracted. On this week, Yale's going to be maybe making phone calls, at least sending emails. So is Booth. People are finding out that they got in round 1. Perhaps you work with someone who had their applications back in August or September. Focus on yourself, get your work done. At this point, you want to put your Stanford essays on the back burner. You don't want to be racing through. Give those a break, let them rest for a little bit so you can go back with a fresh set of eyes. Revise your Haas essays and ask for that independent review. Again, not the person who reviewed your outlines for Haas, not the person who reviewed an earlier draft of those essays, but a totally new person. It could be the same person who read your Stanford essays, that's fine. Finalize your resume. Go back and revise your essays for NYU and ask for, again, that independent review. Go ahead and draft responses to those short answer questions. If it's longer than 200 words, I suggest that you do it along with your outlines and your essays. You really want to make sure that you're touching on the important pieces of your profile across all the materials in your application. So you don't want to duplicate your favorite extracurricular activity in your application when you wrote a whole essay about it. Take the opportunity when you have a short answer to touch on something else that shows you more completely. go ahead and write your first draft of your essays for Columbia and ask for that trusted advisor to review it. Go ahead and do some holiday shopping. Do you need to retake that GMAT? You know, you've got to get 16 days in between. I've got some clients who already have multiple dates on their calendars in November and December. You might think about doing that so that you at least have a seat where you can take your test. All right, 3 weeks to go. As you see in this top calendar, lots of stuff going on in terms of deadlines, or excuse me, decisions coming out. You know, the people who maybe come up short in round 2 or then, in round 1 are going to have 2 weeks to scramble and submit for round 2. And down at the bottom, I didn't say this before, but down at the bottom are quotes. Most of them are from reviews that clients have written about us, but some are from emails. And this is, you know, one of those emails that I still get goosebumps when I read this. This client, you know, is kind of outside of the 80% range on test scores, on the wrong end, out of the 80% range on her GMAT, again, at the wrong end. And you know, really put together a phenomenal set of essays telling a really great story for Cornell. And she's absolutely loving it there. And for me as a counselor, I can't tell you how much these emails put me in my happy place. I had a day 2 weeks ago where 4 of my clients were admitted to school on the same day. And I was, you know, high as a kite. It was amazing. So in any case, off we go. Maybe some of you guys will be working with me, and come March, you'll be sending me this email. Stay focused. Others are getting their admit calls, but you need to focus on, you know, 3 weeks left to get this stuff done. Revisit your Stanford essay that you had set aside and get that finalized. Put your Haas essays on the back burner this week. Give those a rest. Revise your NYU essays. Continue to work on your Columbia essays. Get those short answers finalized, perhaps even uploaded into the application. Circle up with your recommenders to check on their progress. You know, we're coming into the end of the year. Everyone's got a lot of stuff going on. One of my colleagues actually had a great idea on, you know, how to get your recommenders to make sure, you know, they're doing the work for you. And he said, you know, if they have an assistant, make sure the assistant blocks some time on their calendar. Be super nice to that assistant. To ensure that that block is kept so that your manager has that time set aside and is actually working on your recommendations. So that might involve Starbucks or some chocolate or flowers to the assistant to make sure that happens, but you want to make sure that the recommenders find the time to work on this and aren't racing at the last minute to throw something together for you. Make sure that you request your test scores to be submitted to the schools. Continue with your holiday shopping. Take a little break, go to a holiday celebration with your family and friends. Tell them what you're so excited about the different schools you're looking at. Tell them, you know, why you want to be at the very center of business at Columbia. All right, 2 weeks left till deadline. Complete that application online for school number 1, print it to PDF and review it. Most schools have an opportunity to print a file to PDF. I review those all for my clients. It's amazing the sloppy things that I have found. I had a client a couple of weeks ago who had mistyped a bonus. Yes, it would have been wonderful to have had a 6-figure bonus. Unfortunately, it was only 5 figures. I didn't know which one of those 6 figures was not right, but I called it to her attention so she could fix it. So make sure you review your PDF before you submit, because you don't want to be applying to Columbia, the country. You want to make sure you're saying Columbia with a U in New York City. Revisit your essays for Haas. Put your NYU essays on hold for the week, revise your essays for Columbia, have that resume reviewed by a trusted advisor, you know, making sure that it makes sense, you're capturing everything. Did you proofread your work? Again, you don't want to be misspelling stuff. I actually had a client, I was reviewing his resume, and he had on it that he had attended University of Iowa, and the city that he had was in a different state. And I was like, I didn't realize University of Iowa had campuses outside of Iowa. Who knew? It was wrong. Go ahead and get that Stanford application submitted before Christmas. It will feel so good. 1 down, 3 to go. take a short break, spend some time with your family and friends over the long Christmas weekend. You know, that long Christmas weekend could be a great opportunity to dig in and get a lot of work done, but do take a break. Christmas week, 1 week to go, stop relaxing, more work to be done. Go ahead and print out, finalize that essay for Haas, get that application done, print it to PDF and review it, revisit your NYU essays and finalize them, put your Columbia essays on the back burner for the week, confirm that your recommendations have been submitted, maybe ping your recommenders. Most schools, you will have visibility in a portal to see whether or not recommendations are in, and you can just send a gentle reminder to your recommenders if they haven't submitted something yet. Email the students that you might have talked to at different schools to thank them for their assistance. They probably are on Christmas break and enjoying their time with family. Go ahead and submit your application for Haas. Again, it will be a great feeling to have 2 of them done, 2 more to go. And then by the end of this week, print your NYU application and review that one and get ready to submit that. Here we go. Look at all the red here on this page. All of these applications due in the first 3 days or 4 days of the year. Ring in 2018, maybe you go to bed at 9 o'clock because you're just exhausted for all you've done for the last 60 days. Review and finalize your essays for Columbia. Go ahead and submit that NYU application. Print your Columbia application to PDF again and review that. Submit that Columbia application. Go ahead, write some thank you notes to your recommenders and celebrate. Because you are done. Take the rest of the week off after you get those applications in. Breathe, and then you can start thinking about preparing for interviews. So we just raced through a lot, and we actually are almost coming up on our hour here. So I appreciate your patience. I actually want to go through a little bit of how can Stratus admissions help you. The first is, as you probably can see from what I've walked through, applications are complicated. There are lots of moving parts. There are tight schedules, nuanced decisions. Stratus' team-based approach with a proven methodology, we know it works. We have really caring, supportive, responsive, and insightful counselors who work very closely with their clients, and they have the ability to leverage the collective wisdom and experience of dozens of people on our team who have all gone to top 20 schools and share information. I found this cartoon a while ago, and it makes me think of a bunch of clients I've worked with who applied to the MBA programs on their own. There's one guy actually who attended roughly this same webinar a year ago, applied on his own, didn't get in anywhere, reached out to me in August that he was reapplying, got into a school already this year. And when admissions called him to let him know he was in, they commended him on the dramatic improvement in his application. Quite frankly, I didn't really change anything in his background, but working with me, he was able to highlight the right things for that particular school, and it was enough to get him in. But he was too busy last year and didn't need help. He thought he could do it all on his own. So keep that in mind. Learn what it would be like to work with Stratus. Contact us for a free 30-minute consultation. You can either email us at consult@stratusadmissions.com or go to our website /R2Ready. There's a form there that you can fill out to request a consult. Because you are with us today on this webinar, if you use the code R2Ready and you purchase a comprehensive package, if you buy 4 schools with us, you will get a 5th school free if you buy by November 10th. Okay, that's next week. It's kind of our cutoff for doing 4 schools with us. As you see, there's a lot of work to be done. Our process really does take time, and if we cram it into less than 50 days, it just doesn't work. And we can even connect you with former Stratus clients who are now in an MBA program or have already been admitted for next year, and they can share their experiences. And with that, 2 other webinars I want to bring to your attention. We're doing a Wednesday webinar series next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be talking about getting into Harvard, Wharton, or Stanford with an imperfect profile, and the following week, MBA essay do's and don'ts. And with that, I am going to open it up for some questions here. And for some reason, my questions thing is not opening up for me to be able to see these questions. Let me try again here. with my webinar stuff, and I can barely see it. Swapna wants to know, can you please elaborate on what goes into the outline? Great question. Outline should be, imagine if rather than before you write, you were to just make a PowerPoint presentation. That's bullet points. That's really what you want to have is, in an outline, let's talk for a second about a goals essay. Your introduction should kind of state what your short-term goal is, give a little bit of background on your previous work, and highlight kind of 3 areas that you need to develop in during business school. They're going to help you reach that goal. And then as you write your outline, you're going to have 3 body paragraphs, each of them drilling down on those 3 areas for development. Calling out, in a bulleted list in the outline form, what class you might take. Is there a concentration or a major related to your area for development? What do you hope to learn through that? So bullet points. Is there a club that you might get involved in? Are there industry professionals that you will look forward to meeting because you're in New York City and you could go, and have a lunch and learn with someone from industry? So really imagine, if you will, that outline is a bulleted structure of your writing. So don't write sentences, just put your ideas down in a structured way. Hopefully I answered your question there. Any other questions here as we wrap up? And with that, there are some more questions. I'm having trouble seeing these because some of these are personal questions, and I'll try to follow up with you personally with answers. And with that, the other questions are kind of personal and not worth it for everyone to hear the answer. So I will reach out via email. I should have your contact information. Otherwise, reach out to us through consult@stratusadmissions.com. And I do want to thank you for joining us. And I want to thank Beat the GMAT for hosting me today for this webinar. I wish you all the best in your MBA journey. This is a really exciting time. Take time to savor the thought process in this. It's really, something very special. And I wish you all the best, and I look forward to hearing from some of you. Have a great rest of your day.